And if you'd like to follow... Okay, letter to... By not allowing... Crap!
You're so gross!
Ah! We'll do that again. Autographed copy of Strings of Gold. Wow. Okay, darn it. Okay, here we go. That was so good. That should make the bloopers reel. Jeez. Well, hey everyone. Welcome to the Mind of Christ here on YouTube. My name is Justin Amos, and I am so excited to be joined today by Jillian Timberlake. She is coming to us live today from the Louisville, Kentucky area. She is a new author that has recently released her book, Streams of Gold. It can be found on Amazon and lots of other platforms online. If you stick around, we're going to be giving away a free autographed copy of Streams of Gold. So towards the end of this video, we're going to walk you through the steps of how to do that. Jillian, so tell us a little bit, just kind of about yourself. A lot of people listening probably don't know much about you, if anything. So just tell us a little kind of brief introduction into who you are and just your family a little bit.
Yeah, so like you said, I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm married to my husband of 15 years, and we have 3 kids ranging in age from 4 to 9. Okay. I am a trained speech pathologist, but right now I am staying home with my kiddos. I like to say I am a non-writer who turned into a writer very unexpectedly.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, so let's dive in. Why is this book needed? Streams of Gold. Why is this book so critical? And kind of tell us just a little bit, just your heart behind this book and what you're really hoping to get across to the, everyone that dives in and reads it.
Sure. So Streams of Gold was born after one of the worst seasons of anxiety that I had had. I've always been, I would say, an anxious person. I've always also been a very creative person. So writing about my journey with anxiety and intersecting that creative part, actually making something and putting words to it, really started out as something that I was not planning to share with anyone. I wrote the book basically to capture just the things that I had taken away from a really hard season. And when I came out on the other side of that, I wanted to preserve what I had learned. And so I wrote the book, not ever expecting to share it, or I probably wouldn't have been as vulnerable and raw in the writing of it. But that is, I think, what makes it resonate with so many people who have read it now.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I love that vulnerability piece. And we're going to dive into that here in a few minutes. Something you said in the book really kind of struck a chord with me, and I know so many people can relate to. You said that for most of your life, worry has been the soundtrack to your life. Constant questions of what if this happens? What if that happens? And then you said that kind of what began your journey of just recovery from living in that constant state of worry came from a quote from a magician of all people, which nobody knows mental health better than people that pull, rabbits out of hats, right? I mean, that's who we look to for mental health guidance. So tell us a little bit about that quote, because I thought that was hilarious. What was it about that quote that really kind of propelled you into this journey of kind of recovering from living in a constant state of worry and finding some freedom in that area?
Yeah, well, the quote actually came years before I found much relief, but it definitely resonated with me. It was a quote by Harris III. So I was in the audience of one of his shows, and he said, "Worry is imagination gone wrong." And that hit me in the gut because as a kid, I had always been this highly imaginative person. And so to hear him connect worry and wonder, one, it validated that, wow, there's a connection here, but also it really empowered me to think, okay, if I can use my imagination and worry myself sick and use it on that negative side, then maybe I can harness this creative muscle that my mind kind of automatically takes and use it for life-giving purposes of creativity and wonder rather than worry.
Yeah. Oh, that is excellent. In your section, A Letter to Your Inner Child, you talk about how critical it is for us to feel all of our feelings, even the ones that we often try to avoid, and how we really have to allow ourselves to feel those unpleasant emotions to really experience the beauty of, joy and happiness and excitement. And so, what advice would you give someone listening that kind of finds themselves suppressing their emotions? And what would you say that perhaps they're missing out on by not allowing themselves to feel their feelings?
Well, this one I've had to learn a lot from experience because as a pretty black and white thinker, I like to think of things as good or bad.
Hmm.
So my tendency has always been to characterize the pleasant emotions, the ones that are enjoyable to feel, as good, and to desire and seek after those, and to very much suppress or hide those, what I would have in the past deemed as negative emotions. But now, as I realize, all emotions are neutral. So there's not
Hmm.
the good, there's not the bad, there's the pleasant ones to feel, there's the miserable ones to feel, but they all serve a purpose. I've found that research shows that if you do not allow yourself to feel the full gamut of what we would deem as the negative emotions or the unpleasant emotions, then it actually hinders your ability to feel the full span of the positive
Yeah.
or more pleasant to experience emotions.
Yeah.
When I look at the Gospels and Jesus felt all these emotions, yet he was without sin, it really started making me rethink, wait, is that emotion bad or wrong? Or maybe that emotion is a tool that God has designed me with to alert me to something. There's a problem.
Yes.
If I'm angry, there's a problem. It doesn't necessarily mean I should choose to act out in, you know, crazy anger,
Yeah.
but I can use that as an indicator that it's pointing me towards something healthier. It's trying to alert me. Every emotion has a purpose.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So feel your feelings, people. Feel your
Feel every
feelings.
one of them and
The-
don't feel ashamed for how you feel.
Exactly. So in your book, you talk about how being vulnerable and showing our wounds to others is really the path to healing. So I'd love to hear kind of how vulnerability has led you to healing, how it's allowed you to connect with others in more meaningful ways, and maybe just give any encouragement that you would give someone listening that is kind of choosing to isolate themselves from others and from finding community. So yeah, just anything along those lines I think would be helpful.
Sure. The one caveat when it comes to vulnerability, because I do think it's super valuable, but the one caveat that I keep going back to is that vulnerability is valuable when it's in a safe space. And
Yes.
so I used to think vulnerability across the board, just lay it all out there. Again, that black or white, all or nothing thinking
Yep.
that I tend to gravitate towards. But Brene Brown is a lead researcher in vulnerability. And I remember that at one point she talked about that if we're vulnerable with the wrong person, they can easily become one more piece of flying debris in an already dangerous shame storm. I think that may be
Yep.
paraphrased, but that was about how she put it.
Mm.
And I would say that when we're vulnerable with safe people, and when we in turn become those types of people for other people to be vulnerable with, that's where I think a lot of healing can happen. We want ultimately to be seen and known and loved unconditionally. And so while I think vulnerability is really helpful in healing when it's done in the context of safe community, for me, ultimately, I first had to find that in Christ. And it wasn't until I really sat down and looked at the scriptures and saw and let what I knew cerebrally sink in to my soul that we are deeply loved, regardless of a mental health struggle, regardless of achievement, regardless of the circumstance that we're in. That's where I think when we realize we can be vulnerable with God first,
Yeah.
and be loved, and then we can be vulnerable to other people. And out of that, it's not their response that is healing us. We are firm in our identity in Christ.
Yeah. Oh, that is fantastic. That is so rich. Thank you so much. And now we come to the part of the video where we're going to be giving away one free autographed copy of Streams of Gold. So there's three things you have to do to get your hands on this autographed free copy by Jillian, you need to like this video on YouTube, subscribe to the Mind of Christ channel here on YouTube, and then just comment on this video here on YouTube. You could say free book, you could say Jillian rocks, streams of gold, anything like that, just so we know that you are in our system. And if you'd like to follow along to what Jillian is doing on social media, you can check her out on Instagram. You can find her at Streams of Gold Memoir. Please follow her as she is posting frequent content that is excellent and engaging for all people to check out. So, Jillian, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me,
Yeah,
Justin. This was fun.
yeah, awesome. Thank you all for tuning in, and good luck to whoever wins that book. So, see you guys. Peace.